Welcome to the 2018 World Chess Championship. This is a 12-game match between the world champion from Norway, Magnus Carlsen, and his American challenger, Fabiano Caruana. I'm Anna Rudolph, and I'm going to be your host. Our chess expert, as usual, is Judith Polgar. How are you doing today, Judith?
I'm very good, and I'm excited that maybe something will happen decisive today.
It could be the day. We have reached the halfway mark. 6 games have been played, all 6 finished in a draw. All of them a very exciting fight. And today, Magnus Carlsen repeats the white color. What do you expect from today's game?
Actually, I think Magnus is in trouble in some ways. Because,
why is he in trouble?
Well, we had 6 draws, ups and downs. He missed a great opportunity to collect the full point in game 1. So ever since, he's kind of struggling with himself, I think. It's not clear at all whether his preparation is better than Fabiano, softly saying. With the white pieces, it's a kind of very tricky, I think, that it's... psychologically, it's a big problem for players to play with white. At least that's what I see in this World Championship match. That, and also, Magnus was telling this in the press conference when he was just ahead of having the 2 games, game 6 and 7. And he said, yeah, when you have the white pieces, you think that you have to strike, which actually he could not show at all in the previous game. So I don't know if he's going to put extra pressure on himself, or finally he will just let it go and say, okay, I play with the white pieces, but whatever happens, I just have to focus on myself, to be relaxed, to exclude all this tension which can be on my neck, because actually in the previous game he was very close. But he made some genius and fantastic defensive moves. It was incredible, unbelievable.
It was made in 36 for Fabiano Caruana. Of course, no human could figure it out. Only the engines.
Yeah, I think about that. We're going to talk more about it during the day, because I think there is a very special endgame which we were witnessing in Game 6. But it's very clear that he was not happy about it, the fact that actually he got to know that it was winning, it was a fortress, so it was, in the beginning it was a draw. But definitely it was something on the highest level of understanding of chess, but also objectively about chess. So it was a very special game, Game 6, and actually I'm expecting that Magnus just has to change strategy and somehow relax more and go for a big fight.
Can he relax more? With each and every game that they draw, there are less games that will be played. That means that if we reach a tiebreak, we were discussing this, what happens if it's a draw after 12 games, they will need to play the playoffs. Now, most chess experts consider Magnus Carlsen a favorite in the tiebreak since it's a shorter time control, rapid play. Fabiano clearly has been preparing for that as well. But it also feels like Magnus doesn't want this match to head to the tiebreak. He wants to prove in classical chess that he is the best.
Well, if, let's say, we would ask him whether he can choose between playing the next 6 games or just go for the tiebreak, I wouldn't be surprised if he would just say, let's go for the tiebreak.
If he could cut it now after 6 games.
Yes,
he has 6 more to play.
I think in back of his mind, he should have a great confidence in the playoff games. In other hand, I don't think he's happy at all that we have 6 draws in this World Championship match, because he's not the kind of player, he's not the kind of fighter who is happy with those draws. He wants to have a decisive game, but it can also put you extra pressure outside and on yourself that there should be a decisive game finally. But I think the most important is that somehow for him to let it go and really somehow, which is the most difficult thing, to think that this is just a game and he has to give 100% whatever happens. And it was interesting that only now I had the chance to go into the playing hall, the box where they are playing the World Championship match every game. And I had a feeling when I entered there that the players must feel like they are in another planet. It is so much isolated, you know, when they are playing there. They are so much alone, only the 2 of them. So I'm very curious how Magnus can overcome on these crises what he had practically, especially in the last game, where we could say after move 12-13 that it's equal position. He didn't get anything out of the opening. He started with a strange decision in move 4 with playing knight d3. Against the Petrov finally. And after that, simply Fabiano outplayed him. He was playing very energetically, slowly but surely, and there were quite a few occasions where Magnus admitted that he was just blundering. I mean, this very special move twice, he was blundering during the game, bishop a3.
As if he missed that square, the bishop a3 move. He missed it twice, he admitted it himself.
Yeah, which means that he's somehow definitely not in his best form. And this is a very bad feeling for a player when you know that simply some squares are falling out of your head, right? You don't pay attention on all the 64 squares of the board. So I don't know what will shake up Magnus to really be a lion today.
The free day could have helped. Yesterday the players had a free day. We have some general information on what the players normally do on their free days. Of course, Magnus Carlsen is known for loving to exercise some sports, football mainly. There's a video by Play Magnus that you can watch from the previous free day when Magnus Carlsen is playing football, and also helps to clear the football field by picking up leaves from the football field. While Fabiano, he prefers going for a walk, and as a preparation for the match, he also practiced some yoga.
Well, he's a very calm and very big fighter, Fabiano, but you can see at the board that he can really focus, he can really stay calm, even in the most dangerous looking positions. So it is very interesting to see both players, and it's interesting how or if any part of the match we will see them completely unbalanced and make serious mistakes. And of course the tension is escalating. I mean, that's very clear that everybody is expecting something really happening, some fire on the chessboard. On the other hand, of course, you may criticize the players that why Magnus is going for a sideline. Why isn't he going to main lines? But I wouldn't be surprised if even today we are not going to see very sharp main lines.
What happened in the previous 3 games when Magnus Carlsen was white? First, he pushed d4. Then he switched to c4, and in game 6 it was e4. What can we expect today?
Well, I think we can actually easily expect knight f3 and playing some d3 solid game. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he would just go for, from the start, something long game. Unless he figured out something and he sees the spirit in himself going into some sharp line. But for that, he has to have some preparation that would surprise Fabiano. And I think it was kind of a big shock for him to deal the game 2 when black Fabiano was playing rook d8, some sideline in the queen's Indian decline already at move 10. It really disturbed him. And we could see it was the only game where Magnus was really spending so much time, and Fabiano took a huge time advantage at a very early stage of the game. So it would be nice to see Magnus back with his really detailed fighting spirit and see his patience and great fantastic ideas, creating something on the board which is really exciting.
We shall see what's going to happen today, but before we turn our attention to Game 7, let's see what our spectators thought about Game 6.
I had an amazing time because today's game was so exciting. You know, the opening was brilliant with an unusual exchange of queens, and then the end game was quite complicated. So that was very, very interesting to watch.
I thought he had a very good chance to, and I thought today would be decisive. I was really looking forward to that, but it was a fantastic match.
First time I've seen Carlsen worried. He was exasperated a couple of times with his body language.
I was a bit nervous at the end, to be honest, but we had high hopes for Magnus.
I hope it'll give Fabio confidence. I think he will come in stronger now.
I think that Carlsen just got a slap in the face, which may or may not wake him up. We'll see.
The computer claims that there should have been a win at some point, but neither of them saw it, and most people don't understand it. So, from normal human terms, I'd have to say it's just a normal result in this kind of an event.
So even if there wasn't a fortress for one move, it doesn't matter to you. You don't think, oh my gosh, I've missed something awful. You just think, I'm not a supercomputer.
We were looking at the computers as well, so we were quite afraid during the match, yes.
They were all very tense, and we, the fans, we are enjoying a lot.
I think Carlsen should never have been made to suffer. He's trying to make a move with white at this point in the match. But he at least managed to leave the room with a good feeling since he survived the suffering, so still in balance.
They are the two best players in the world, and they're neutralising each other. Today he got a bit of a shock, but he defended himself when he had to. And Caruana got quite close.
He is very much on form, and I think that he's scaring Magnus quite a bit. So I'm not sure how that's going to end up later on. But for the moment, I think Fabiano has a great chance of winning.
I was rooting for him. I really thought he had a chance for the first time, and he was really showing a little bit of command, but it all went pear-shaped.
A good friend of mine that I've played chess with ever since high school invited me on the trip. So here I am, and I'm very thankful to God for that.
Yeah, nice atmosphere, I think. People are talking to each other, and it's great to be here, actually. Yeah.
We are entering right now in the 7th game, in the second half of the match, and everything is so tight that we don't know what could happen from now on, really.
I think he will win if it comes to a tiebreak. I think so, but he shouldn't rely on it. It's a big risk. It's a big risk to do that, I think. Yeah.
No, I'm not making predictions. Sorry, no. Too close, and too nerve-wracking. No predictions.
Well, I'll say Fabiano.
Fabiano.
I've gone from Carlsen to Fabi. I've changed my mind. I've gone the other way, yeah. We're going for him now, aren't we?
Yes, definitely.
I'm not really a psychic, so I can't really predict anything, but I hope Fabiano wins.
It seems that most of our visitors agree that we have here the two strongest players in the world, and they are neutralizing each other.
Yes, absolutely. But it was great to see the feedbacks from the audience, from grandmasters to chess enthusiasts, that they're really excited. They were a little bit sad not to see a decisive game in Game 6, but I think we had a lot of Fabi fans.
Yes,
out there.
It feels like the Challenger is collecting more and more fans. Some switched from Team Magnus to Team Fabi.
Exactly.
And the fans of Magnus Carlsen, of course, had a really tough day the day before when Magnus Carlsen was defending in a worse position. And then suddenly the engine said it's mate in 36, even if it was inhuman.
Well, and the thing is that what happened in Game 6, it is not something Magnus experienced at a lot of occasions in his career. I mean, this was typically a position where people would think, yeah, the question is whether is Magnus going to squeeze the opponent, how is he going to get advantage, how is he going to outplay his opponent, and actually it happened the other way around. And this must be a new feeling for him.
Certainly is, and he was, of course, asked about the fortresses, whether he believes in fortresses.
Well, it was a tricky question because actually it was a fortress, but then he made an accuracy move, and then Fabiano could have won the game. But what amazes me in this game, that actually Black had a piece up. Probably most of you saw the end game and followed it live. And it was so interesting that me as a commentator, grandmaster, following I Love Endgames, and also I saw many other platforms where there were discussions with grandmasters live, and even after that, you get a winning position. Let's say before the engine times, you would think it should be a win. So let's try it from here, from there, and most likely you're going to win it, and you're going to prove it that it's a win, because the defensive side, you somehow have the feeling that it should be a losing position, right? And it was very surprising that even though we know that it was made in 36, that sounds ridiculous and crazy, but that it is winning for Black. Just Kasparov posted out, right, also that if Fabiano would have found this bishop h4 and then the knight would be going all the way to g1, it means that immediately there should be suspicion and checking the place whether any engine is hidden, because it is simply impossible with chess, human logic, to go all the way with knight to g1. So this is somewhat very strange to me that Fabiano had a winning position and nobody is even questioning it, that he made a mistake or he would have any chance in reality to score that point.
It was just so difficult to realize that he was winning in that moment.
And I believe actually that it is crazy move what was going on, but I think if he would have time, there is a slim chance that he's going all around the board, trying out all the squares, and gets something. But so it was an amazing endgame and everything around it.
Certainly, we will come back to that game and see what can we learn from all previous 6 games. But now let's head to the playing venue and see the players who arrived first. I believe Magnus Carlsen entered the box as the first player to arrive, and Fabiano is also with him. As Judith described, this is a soundproof box, a double-layer glass. They can see a reflection of themselves if they look at the glass. And on the other side of the glass, we have the auditorium. So it's a see-through from one side. Only the 2 arbiters are allowed in the box during the game. And the first move will be played by English chess prodigy Shreyas Royal. He's only 9 years old.
Yeah, it was very funny. Today I was just thinking about it, that every day somebody's making the first move. Can you imagine somebody making the second move?
And the third and the fourth?
I mean, well, of course, they don't really...
interesting.
Of course, they don't really make by themselves. They are advised by the white player who's playing with the white pieces which one they want to play, even though sometimes the person like Woody Harrelson made another move.
It was a joke,
right?
But Fabiano didn't understand it.
Yeah. Well, at this point, this stage of when you're focused, and especially game 1, you not necessarily focus on the jokes.
He also didn't understand that Woody, on purpose, knocked down his king, Fabiano's king.
Yeah. Giving a sign who is he rooting for, right?
Actually, in the case of Woody, it was tricky. As he mentioned, he's got Norwegian roots, and he's from the United States, so he basically is rooting for both players.
Yeah, that's possibly the case. I don't know who is more nervous. Is the little boy next to Magnus Carlsen making the first move, helping out for Magnus with it, or the players?
I think before he touches the first move, if we have a quick moment, no, I think we are too slow. I was going to make a very quick poll among our audience, and I'm going to try to do it before he pushes any pawns. Is it going to be E4, D4, or C4? E4? Can you please vote if you think it's going to be E4? What about D4? We need to be very quick. Oh, D4 is on the board. We are too slow. We are too slow. Thank you for your collaboration. D4 had more votes, I can confirm.
So we have a D4 game, which means that there is a good chance we are going to have some sharper main line, possibly. So let's see, knight f6, I'm sure is going to happen. It's on the board already. This is what happened in game 2. There Magnus played. Oops, that was a scary jadub on d4. d5 is not a very promising move. So knight f3. Knight f3, let's see what Magnus will have in mind. d5, so probably c4 again. We're going to see e6, I guess, unless it's going to be a Grunfeld with g6. But we have e6. Now actually maybe g3 to play the Catalan. That would be interesting to see. Actually, I wouldn't mind if he would play the Catalan.
He stopped for a moment, which is a sign that he might deviate from game 2. A bit of Isklar mineral water from Norway is being consumed to make the next move.
Well, these seconds, it's only to annoy the opponent, that let him to figure out, is it going to be knight c3 again, g3? Or maybe e3, if he doesn't want to go for very sharp things, you never know.
Knight to c3
Knight to
has
c3.
been placed. It was a little bit of a scary moment, psychological pressure. Bishop to e7, we are following the same variation.
Yeah, what we followed. And here bishop f4 was played in the previous game.
Do you think that Magnus will repeat the opening from game 2?
I don't know. Actually, we were missed out quite some spectacular lines because
Bishop
Magnus was
f4.
not going into the sharpest ideas after the rook d8 move, which happened in game 2. So far, we are still in the same game as it was in game 2.
This is a moment when I need to bring up the screenshot I have from Fabiano's video, the one that shouldn't have been on the screen, because one of the variations on they had chess base open on a laptop screen. If you don't know the story, I'm sure you must know the story. A video about Fabiano's training camp that was published and then taken down from YouTube since it contained confidential information on his preparation. And the screen showed some of the variations Fabiano prepared for the match as black. One of those files was about this particular opening with not rook d8 but rook to e8. I'm curious if they are going to play that today.
Castle e3, c5, dc5. We are still following the same moves as the last previous game. D takes c5, bishop c5. It will be very interesting who is going to be deviating in this game.
So far it's all the same, as we mentioned, and I managed to bring up the screenshot. And indeed, that was actually the file says, I can show it to you as well.
No, I
Queen's
think we have a new
Gambit
move.
declined. Oh, we have a new move. Then it doesn't matter what it said, actually. It was going to be the Queen's Gambit declined, bishop f4 variation with 10s, rook d1, rook to e8. That was Fabiano's preparation, not only the rook d8 variation. But now it's in the past. Doesn't matter anymore.
So actually, it is nice to see, of course, a sharp main line, and probably Magnus thought that it's already time to go for something sharper. In this system.
What are some of the latest games in this variation?
Well, there are many different moves. Nakamura was playing in his last game, for example, with the black pieces. He was playing knight c6. But there are many different moves. It was a rapid game, actually. So I would mainly tell you what are the options. The options is, well, knight c3, of course, the developing move is very natural. It's the most played. Queen a5 is also another move which is possible. D takes c4. Well, of course, knight c6 is the main move. That's no question by far. It's the main move to develop. But there is a move queen a5 which was played, and of course, very strong players. Nakamura has quite a few games in this line.
Queen a5 is on the board indeed, and Magnus Carlsen played immediately pawn to a3.
Sorry about that, not bishop a3. Yeah, a3. And knight c6, knight d2. Yeah, the knight, generally speaking, is feels the most comfortable in this position for white. Knight on d2, because immediately it's already threatening to move to b3 and attack the queen, because it's kind of annoying to see that queen. But in these lines, there are all kind of tactical lines could happen. Here, after knight c6 actually after queen a5 is the main move, and knight d2 is played in 2018. Actually,
Basically, they have transposed to game 2 until the moment the queen is on a5 and pawn a3, but not knight d2. Isn't it that Magnus played rook d1 in that position?
Ah, yes, sorry, exactly. It was rook d1 which he played, and now it's knight d2 immediately.
So just to sum up, the first 9 moves are the same as in game 2, but instead of rook to d1, which Magnus played in that particular game, he decided for knight to d2.
Yes, actually, the rook d1 was the main line. In the here, what Magnus played previously, it was rook d1, and then the surprising continuation was rook d8 from black side, and this made Magnus think quite a bit. And after here, it was knight d2, which was the most crucial point, and there are some very nice lines actually. But here...
And rook d1, rook e8 is the one that appears on the screenshot from the video. So we almost got there, but Magnus decided not to use this piece of information, and he plays knight d2 instead.
Yeah, it might be the case, but maybe he just wanted to deviate earlier, I must say, which makes a lot of sense, I think, at this stage of the match. And it's always very important to give surprises to the opponent. It's kind of a very important part of the preparation.
Judith, we will receive some help in order to understand today's game between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. Our guest is only 9 years old, Shreyas Royal. He's an English chess prodigy. And I believe that, Shreyas, you would like to become the world champion by 2013. Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
I will put this closer to you because I think you are our youngest guest. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How did it feel to make the first move for Mr. Carlsen?
It felt good, but already last year in the London Chess Classic, I made the first move.
Oh, so you have a lot of experience making first moves for world champions.
Yeah.
Did you expect d4? What did you think he will tell you?
Well, actually, I do play d4, and last year I played e4 for him, but he still played d4, and he still did again play d4. So, yeah, he copied me.
Is it the first day that you are visiting the World Championship? I'm sure you were following online.
Yeah, I was following online the games, but this is the first day I'm visiting.
How did it feel to be in the same hall where the two are competing for the highest title in chess?
It felt really good.
Do you picture yourself in a few years there? You said by 2013, Shreyas is going to play for the world title?
Yes.
So against who? Do you know your opponent is going to be?
No.
How do you train in order to become world champion? I see that you are very motivated. What do you think it takes to become world champion?
I think sometimes you need a little bit of luck, but definitely you need to work really hard. And I'm not saying how many hours you work. I mean, you can even work 3 hours, but you have to work properly in those 3 hours, not looking here and there and just getting distracted. Otherwise, there's no point.
Well, that's a great point, to be efficient when you're learning.
Yeah.
What do you learn normally, and how? Do you have a trainer? How do you train?
Well, I normally like to play lots of blitz games, so you should get lots of experience by playing lots of blitz games. And some people, they give me puzzles and lots of games to look at. So yeah, you could say they're kind of like my trainers.
Okay, Judith, how do you see Shreyas at the age 9, and what advice would you give him in order to become world champion?
Well, definitely you have to play a lot, many hours every day.
Yeah.
And how many hours you can play?
I normally play 1 to 2 hours. 2 hours has been my maximum so far.
Well,
do you analyze the games after you play? I was going to say, sorry.
I do. I do analyze my games. Yeah, I do.
That's important, not just to play, but to see what were the mistakes and where can you improve. What else would you give?
Can you imagine how many hours the top players are training? Well, not only now, but even when they were prodigies, when they were 10, 11, 12?
Well, probably not when they were prodigies, but probably like now, 10 hours they might work. It may seem a lot or maybe not that much, but probably they work really properly in those hours. And they also have like other grandmasters, like they have teams, like they work in, so yeah, they get other experience from other grandmasters, even though they're the best.
And do you see yourself having the opportunity to play more every day?
Yes,
yeah?
I do.
I assume that you go to school if you only have 1 or 2 hours per day.
Well,
you attend school.
I skip Monday and Tuesday in my school, but I go for the rest of the days.
You skip Monday and Tuesday for chess, so you can train.
But they give me lots of homework, so like it's basically going, because they even give me all the schoolwork, so it's basically not skipping school. But because they give me even the schoolwork, which happens in school. So. Well, I use it for the chess time, and like on Monday I use it mostly for the chess time, and Tuesday I just have to do all my homework and schoolwork.
What is the thing you love the most in chess? Which part of the game?
Well, probably the end game, because it's maybe the most difficult part, because like so many empty squares, so many things to calculate, and like there are like principles, and like you have to remember them. And that's how you can play the end game. It's not all about calculation, it's also about principles and remembering them. So, yeah, end game is...
So, well, you say end games. I can't stop myself asking, what do you think about the end game of Game 6?
End game of Game 6.
Did you see the previous
game? Yes, I did see that game. I think Carlsen was a pawn up in that game.
But no, later Fabiano had a piece up. And White had one pawn for it only.
There were 2 end games, and I think it said that Carlsen was losing, and I think that. Well, when the pieces got like to king on f4, bishop on g5, pawn on f6, knight on h6, and the bishop was somewhere on the like c2, and the king was on g6, and the pawn was on h5 and f5. I think it was difficult for Black to make any progress, so I didn't know if it was winning or not, but I think maybe Fabiano Caruana had a chance to win.
What do you think about that everybody in the world, including Kasparov and everybody, all the top guys, everybody considers that Fabiano was winning, but we cannot blame him not winning this game, because it was not human the way the winning moves were advised by the computer.
Magnus, he had a game in the Granite Chess Classic earlier this year, and I saw he was beating Fabiano. Like, he had to play this rook h7 move, I think, which was totally a computer move, but instead he played a5, so like even the top level grandmasters can't find if it's like a computer move totally. So yeah, maybe we can't blame Fabiano Caruana for that.
But you do believe that they have the potential to spot even inhuman moves?
Yeah, I think they do, because computers not either perfect. Because when there's fortresses and let's say we have less material, the computers think it's like winning or much better, but it's normally equal, unless the other opponent blunders. So, yeah.
How do you see the match here, and what do you think will happen in the next 6 games? Do you have a favorite among these 2 players?
Yeah, it's Magnus.
Magnus.
Yeah. Probably I favor Magnus because he's really good in endgames and stuff. And in this position, it may seem equal, but I prefer White. Because his pieces seem a bit more harmonized, because the bishop on c8 and rook on a8 are not developed, but White's pieces can get developed very quickly, because the bishop on c8 might have some trouble finding a square unless he plays e5 and bishop goes to g4. Mm-hmm. But in that case, the d5 pawn will be weak. So, yeah.
What do you think about the summary of Shreyas, Judith, in this position?
Yeah, it was given perfectly fine. E5 is the strongest threat what Black has. It's interesting that in the previous move, Black went out after a3. He went queen a5, stopping b4. And after knight d2, Black went back to d8.
Yeah, so...
Exactly for
kind
the
of lost the
reason that
tempo.
he wants to go e5, because the knight is not on f3 anymore,
Yes.
stopping black to play e5.
And if the knight
And I
goes back to
think-
f3, queen a5.
I think
and
White
check.
played knight b3 here to avoid the
Yes,
e5.
that's a very logical continuation. So after knight b3, you would think that e5 will be anyway the reply? Or black goes away with his bishop?
There might be a chance because if you could say White wants to be like after e5, knight takes c5, pawn takes f4, pawn takes f4. Like White's king is weak, and maybe Black might have a chance to go d4. So, and Black's piece is a bit more active. So maybe e5 is still playable.
I agree with you that if knight c5, e takes f4 gives White some problems, but what about White would be moving away with his bishop?
Yeah,
and put a pin on pin the f6 knight. For a moment, the c5 bishop would be hanging, and also the d5 pawn would be attacked.
Yeah, like it would be only playable if he took on c5, because I think now if he plays with bishop e7, then probably rook d1 will happen, and it's difficult for...
I would even try maybe just to grab the pawn immediately. What do you think? Taking on f6, and then takes with the pawn on d5.
Yeah, I guess that's also possible.
So after knight e5, e7, e4. And
Yeah,
then
e4
White
will
is just
protect the
having
pawn.
a pawn up.
Yeah, and bishop, and then he can harmonize his pieces. So e5, yeah, I told you the side backs of e5 were the d5 pawn it's going to be very weak. So
And you were right about it. It can fall. So what shall Black do after knight to b3?
Which was played, and it's on the board.
I would try for bishop d6 and trying to exchange that bishop, and maybe e5 might be a bit more easier. Yeah, so I just want to get e5 no matter what happens. So.
Well, it's either bishop d6 or I think also bishop e7 has, of course, all the... it's also a nice idea still to keep in mind to play e5 later.
Yeah.
Which after White can also castle, actually. He might go castle and finally
the queen
This could be
very
a very
sharp,
exciting game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably after castle, I would try to get my queen out of that. The rook on d1.
Would you go to b6 with the black queen, or?
Yeah, probably I would go to b6 and maybe a5, a4, and just make sure, because like after a5, a4, the question is where is the knight going to go? Probably d4 is possible, but d2 and a1 just doesn't seem good to me. But unless like the knight wants to replace himself if it goes to d2, then it should be fine. But yeah, my plan is a4, a5, a4 here.
Well, actually, queen b6 would be kind of a pawn sacrifice, as White would be able to take.
Pawn takes.
And let's say takes.
Knight takes.
Looks kind of scary for White, right?
And I would play, if he takes, then I would play bishop e6, rook c8 in.
Yeah, I was thinking to go rook b5.
Yeah, rook b5. And the queen, I think it has to go to d8.
You have to go back and then somehow escape with the king.
But
to
I
b1.
think it's really risky because the rook doesn't seem very happy on that square. And the pieces are not developed properly, so I think it should be difficult. Although White is a pawn up. So
Well, it definitely becomes very concrete, and the question is whether White would have the time to develop with his bishop and bring the h1 rook. But also the rook from b5, it can sometimes jump all over, go to the other side, to the king side possibly.
But I think that might be bad sometimes because you can just play g6 and bishop f5, like when the queen's on d7 probably. So, yeah.
Okay, so you would give a pawn sacrifice here from black
Yeah, I
side,
would
right,
give a
after
pawn
castle.
sacrifice. Yeah, I would give a pawn sacrifice because I really want the c4 pawn off the board.
Well, after queen b6, maybe what about playing c5 with the white pieces? You cannot take it because knight a4, right?
Yep.
That would lose a piece. You would have to go back to d8. It would be already the third time going back to d8 or being on d8. And I was considering to play e4, play in the center.
Okay, maybe this might be a little bit better for white, but maybe we can play b6, bishop b7, rook c8, and try to get the c5 pawn.
Well, probably after b6, I might be trying e takes d5.
Pawn takes d5.
Bishop c4. Trying to take use of the pin.
Oh, Fabiano has played a move that we did not discuss before, bishop to b6.
Bishop to b6.
So neither bishop d6 nor bishop to e7.
I think this was the new move. Bishop e7 was played previously in this position. But
Bishop b6 is a novelty according to our database.
Novelty.
Yeah, it seems like bishop b6 is a new move.
What do you think of this novelty? Why to place the bishop there? Can you figure it out why they prefer it to bishop e7?
No, maybe he like sometimes he wants to play bishop c7, but maybe he could, if he wants to play bishop c7, sometimes he could have just played bishop d6 immediately. So I'm not really sure. And maybe the other reason might be sometimes he wants to play d4, and like the bishop on b6 gives it more chances for d4.
Yeah, I think also that that's the reason he went to b6.
Yeah.
To support these ideas of d4 with black, if in a later stage it's possible.
Yeah.
Now I think the question is whether rook d1 will be played, and later on white wants to keep the option to castle short, or will he be more sharp and play castle long? Which would you prefer?
I think I would prefer rook d1.
You want to play more solid?
Yeah, I want to play more.
What is the drawback of long castle?
Long castle?
Yeah, if I long castle here, I like it.
Well, I can't say there's any drawback here, but I think that I'm worried about my king and pieces. Maybe I can go for another pawn sacrifice, bishop d7.
So anyway, you would want to sacrifice the pawn. But I think white can... well, first of all, c5, it's also a question whether... But I don't want to close probably because of bishop c7. Let's say takes, and what about knight b5 going to d6?
And maybe instead of taking on c7, maybe you could use the bishop on g5 to remove my knight on f6, which is normally the best defender of the king.
Well, on the other hand, in any case, I think with c5 I would be more careful.
Yeah.
But I think after e takes d5, would you take with the knight or the pawn first?
I think probably pawn first.
Pawn?
Yeah, pawn first.
Yeah, but probably I will not take it because after knight d5, rook d5, it would be deadly dangerous after rook c8, right?
Yeah, it would be very dangerous. And I can move my queen out quickly, and maybe bishop b6 might be possible.
But I think white is not going to take on d5 with the knight. It's either king b1 first, or also maybe bishop g5, I would consider. Later on, bishop d3.
I know that's why I didn't like black's position when it's isolated pawns. The problem is its weakness, but it can be good with attack if you attack. But the pawn is attacked right now, so we can't attack. But maybe we can play bishop e6.
Yes, but black is kind of defending for the moment, I think. Anyway, I think at some point king b1 will be a must. But what do you think if we take not with the pawn, but let's say immediately with the knight, to force to eliminate the c3 knight?
Well, like after I play bishop g3, probably.
Yeah, but then you don't have the isolated pawn if you go away, I think.
Like my bishop on d7, it just feels a bit misplaced there, and like it can't do anything. So, and maybe white can start attacking soon, like h4, h5. So.
Well, I think after knight d5, white will have to take, on d5. This is what I think. And after e takes d5, white cannot take on d5, because what we discussed, that after rook c8, white will have not enough time to get out of the pin, the problems, because of all kind of tactical issues. But what about after e takes d5 to go king b1?
King b1 immediately now. Probably rook c8, since the pawn is still poisoned.
Yeah, and after rook c8 to go away with the queen. But I think black has great compensation, because still white has simply no time for a moment to develop, right?
Yeah.
So I think this might be dangerous for white. That's why he cannot take on d5, I believe.
Or he can try rook to d1 instead of castle queenside. So the options that Magnus can be considering here is whether to castle queenside or simply move the rook to d1.
Exactly. He's still thinking, I believe.
Yes, it feels like bishop b6 did come as a surprise. It's a novelty. He might have had a look at it if it's a suggestion of the engine, of course. But now he's taking more time than before.
Yes, absolutely. It's well, also the question is, let's say if white is just going the simple developing move, bishop e2, is he really going to play e5?
Well,
or d4?
Maybe it's even possible he can play d4 immediately.
And after rook d1?
Rook d1. Maybe we can play e5.
And to go e5 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bishop g5. It can become quite sharp, I must say.
Yes, it can.
Maybe bishop e6?
Yeah, bishop e6.
It's important to control the d5 square, I believe.
Maybe he can play knight d5.
Sorry?
Maybe he can play knight d5, trying to double the pawns.
This point, knight d5.
Yeah.
Bishop d5. If the idea is, I guess, what you want to say, that after queen d5 he would be?
Bishop takes f6.
The only worry is I don't know what happens if there's intermediate move with queen g2.
Well, before taking back on f6.
Yes, because after gf6, I guess you had the idea to control the white squares
Bishop
and play
f3.
possibly bishop d3 or bishop f3.
Yeah, but with that intermediate move comes in.
Right?
Yeah.
So what about playing queen g2? Intermediate move.
I don't think it might be that good.
I don't know if king d2 is possible.
Yeah, but
Looks pretty scary.
Because
with all colors.
Yes.
Maybe king d2 wins?
Maybe not winning. He can take on e3.
Well, takes on e3, takes back. Right? And our king is safer than ever.
The d square is covered by the bishop, but the bishop can't be taken because of rook g1.
Queen d5 check.
Oh, then I'm sneaking out. King c1 and I'm...
Bishop
I casted
takes
long, you see?
Bishop takes e3 check.
King b1.
White is a piece up.
Yeah. So
No.
black's queen is still attacked, so white is winning. So okay, you gave a nice idea, knight d5. If somehow to take advantage of the possible pin, what the bishop is causing to black.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of interesting things happening here, I believe.
Maybe white can also play knight e4.
Yeah, knight e4 is also possible. Yeah, with the similar idea to take advantage of the pin. Actually, this bishop from b6, it would be really nice to be standing on e7 at this point.
And it would be really nice if we could play bishop f5, but knight takes f6, so...
Actually, bishop f5 black can play, because after knight f6, queen f6 can be played, right?
Yeah, maybe you can play it.
Because white cannot take on f6, because black is winning some material.
But maybe we can take with the bishop on f6.
Yes.
And I think you'll have to take on e4.
Well, what about... Yeah, bishop e4 is a good intermediate move. Queen takes on e4. Queen takes f6.
Yeah, it's...
With a pretty balanced game, right?
Yeah.
Black is fine.
Yeah, black is fine.
Yeah.
Probably castle soon.
So now the big question is whether Magnus... What is he thinking about? Bishop e2, long castle, rook d1. I would vote for long castle to make it as interesting as possible.
Shreyas, you said that you would play rook to d1, right?
Yeah, rook
then
to
I'm going to go for bishop to e2, and we have all three possibilities covered. Hopefully, who knows, maybe he will come up with a fourth move. Thank you so much for joining us, Shreyas, and for analyzing with us. We wish you the best, and we hope to see you at the World Championship in 2030.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Good luck.
We will go for a short break, and then we are back with Game 7.